Aloha, and welcome to Wind in Your Hair. Authentic talk, real breakthroughs in love and life, guaranteed no BS, and the life you want most, starting right now. Aloha, and welcome to Wind in Her Hair. This episode is going to be solo, and it was inspired by a Q&A I had, a gentleman asking, how does he know if the woman he is with is a good woman or a bad woman? And so I'm changing the adjective to either healthy versus unhealthy, emotionally mature versus emotionally immature, or high value versus bench warmer. If you've been following me on my social media, you would know that I'm talking a lot about bench warmers versus high value women. I have my notes in front of me on my phone because your time is valuable and I want you to get the most out of this episode as quickly as possible. So, talk a lot about what a high value woman is versus a bench warmer. And it's exactly what it sounds like. This applies to men and women. If you're a bench warmer, you're not working on yourself. You don't value yourself. You don't make good decisions that benefit you and those around you. You are not in relationships to play as a teammate, as a partnership. You're in it just for yourself. You don't have much purpose. And that's because of your mindset. High value people value themselves. They make decisions based on what is good for themselves and those around them, their business, their families, their loved ones. They invest in themselves every single day, not just once a week, not just once a month. They've got workout routines, morning routines. They have goals, ambitions. They care about leveling up. To answer your question, sir, this is how to tell an emotionally mature woman from an emotionally immature woman. This is going to be part one. This is for the men. So you know the type of woman you're with. And if you're with an emotionally immature woman, you are going to suffer. You're going to waste your time. And when you don't let go of what's not meant for you, then you can't make space for what is meant for you. And you can't fix people. Stop fantasizing about her potential because it doesn't exist, and work on yourself so you can find someone that you're aligned with. Okay, so first of all, it's not about her past. You can have two women with the same past, and one is going to win with it, and the other one is going to play a victim for decades down the road until something finally shifts and she decides she wants more. But not all people change. The real difference shows up in how she reacts when she doesn't get her way. That's huge. How does she react when things don't go her way? Does she throw a fit? Does she play the victim? Does she guilt trip you? Does she have an FOR, a fit of rage? Does she yell at you? Does she stonewall you? We're going to go down the list of things. So if the woman you're with checks off multiple items, then how's that working for you? Not good. So an emotionally mature woman, she creates emotional chaos because that's how she's regulated. That's how she's conditioned. She grew up with parents who were probably anxious, preoccupied, or avoidant, and she'll call it passion, but it's really emotional chaos. And they manipulate through guilt and pressure, silent treatment, withholding affection, and withholding sex. They play the victim instead of taking responsibility. This is huge. Can the woman you're with own her mistakes and her bad decisions, or maybe where she triggered you and not on purpose, or where she offended you or hurt you or was a little too intense or harsh? Can she just own it and say, yeah, I'm so sorry about that. Like, I don't know what I was dealing with. I was upset. I took it out on you and I'm really sorry. Simple. Can she apologize? Or does she walk around, it's everybody else's fault, it's the circumstances, she has nothing to do with it, that's why she is the way she is, or where she is, or what she's doing. It's always everybody else's fault. And she reacts. She's not a responder. That means you've thought about your response. A reaction is instant. So there's this beautiful buffer I like to talk about. It's this golden moment between the trigger or the stimulus and your reaction or response. The bigger the buffer, the wiser, the smarter, the less regret you're going to have. If you're triggered and you immediately respond with yelling or swearing or saying something immature or impulsive, you're going to end up having a lot of reparation to make, to repair things. But when you allow yourself that little buffer, that little golden moment of silence and thoughtfulness where you can just look at that person and see deeper, you can understand some valuable lessons. Everybody's stuff, their shit is their own shit. Just because somebody's taking it out on you, it doesn't mean it has anything to do with you. When you stop taking things personally, look at that person and think, wow, they're having a hard time. They seem very bothered about this thing that happened last week. And just be more thoughtful about not taking it onto yourself, but about being present with them in the moment and saying, I can see you're still hurting. What can I do to help? And not making it your responsibility. So an emotionally immature woman, she's going to react. She's going to say things that are hurtful and mean. And then a week later, she'll say, oh, I didn't mean it. But out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. An emotionally immature woman is not going to be able to regulate her emotions. This is probably one of the top 3 signs, being able to regulate your emotions. When she reacts, she says everything she's thinking. There's no filter at all. You can cause a lot of damage that way, and then you keep saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. But if you keep doing it, you do mean it. Once is a mistake, but twice is a decision. She will argue to discharge her emotions instead of wanting to resolve something and be a problem solver, to be solution minded. She's just going to want to argue because that's what she's used to. That's how she's conditioned. That's normal and safe to her. A calm, emotionally regulated, non-argumentative relationship is unsafe for her. She's not comfortable with that. That's not familiar. So she's going to run from that, even though that's exactly what she needs. She will test you instead of trusting you. And she will probably test you to see how you're going to respond. This really gets under my skin. I dated someone once who tested me, and instead of just asking me about the situation, I found out later he tested me. That breaks down trust. It was never quite the same after that moment. And it's a hard thing to deal with when you have somebody who doesn't trust you. For me, an Enneagram 8, trust is very important to me. Once you break my trust, you're outside my circle. I need to know that you can trust me, and I need to know that I can trust you. Without trust, you have no relationship. They will withhold affection to regain control. They will withhold sex and emotional connection to control you. And this is another thing. Emotionally immature women, they like to control instead of just trusting you and letting you do what you need to do, letting you make mistakes, letting you have an opinion, letting you just relax. I knew this woman who wouldn't let her husband put his feet up on the coffee table because it was a clean white coffee table. And I remember thinking, they're going to get divorced. Sure enough, 5 years later, they got divorced because that's not living. Get a different coffee table so that your husband can relax. He probably bought the thing anyway. They will play games to feel powerful or secure, which is exhausting for you. I also dated someone in the past who played games. They didn't always say what they meant or meant what they said. And that's a big deal. Also, as an Enneagram 8, we are very intentional word people. If I don't mean it, I'm not going to say it. If I don't want to go somewhere, I'm not going to say, oh, yeah, I'll probably see you there. No, I'm going to say, you know what? It's not really my vibe. She will blame her trauma instead of healing it. Just years and years go by where she just goes back to all the trauma she experienced as a child instead of finding healing, instead of getting the therapy and doing the work and getting the coaching and practicing emotional regulation and facing her demons and her limiting beliefs and journaling and meditating and rewiring her mindset. This is all the work. This is personal growth 101. This is what has to be done if you want to level up and you want to have a better relationship with yourself and other people. She centers herself In every situation, it's all about her. How she looks, how she comes across to people. Is she getting the attention? Is she happy? Is she getting what she wants? Forget about everybody else. They can fend for themselves. They're not important. She focuses on what benefits her and not what impacts other people. These type of women too, they're not living out their purpose and trying to add value to people's lives. They don't give a shit about the little people. They just want the attention and the approval and the affirmation. They want their egos stroked. And they are incredibly ungrateful. You can buy them a bag and she will smile and say thank you, but she can still walk around resenting the thing you didn't do last week or how you dropped the ball yesterday. Ungratefulness comes from a spirit of pride. And my motto, two mottos: it can always be worse, and there's always something to be thankful for. Thankful for the breath in your lungs, the luxury of Starbucks, the smallest gift, the wind that blows through the trees, the sunsets and the sunrises. There is so much to be grateful for. This world is magical, amazing, and beautiful if you open up your eyes and learn to live with curiosity and find wonder in all the little things. This is what helps you become grateful, because you can look around you and instead of looking at the negative, you can look at the positive. No matter how much you give her, no matter what you do for her, all the things you try to make her happy, it's never going to be enough. She lacks real purpose beyond getting attention, having control, and creating drama. She doesn't know what she's doing in this life, what her gifts are, or how she's supposed to add value to people's lives. And being around her feels tense and confusing. You're walking around on eggshells just waiting for the next blowout or emotional mood swing. So let's get into the emotionally mature woman. I'm sure you have more things you could add to this list. If you went down this list, how many does the woman you're with check off? And if she checks off, definitely half. You are settling. You're probably trying to fix her or rescue her, and it's not going to happen. And you're probably not going to listen to me either, because people are going to do exactly what they want to do. But you do get to a point where you hear another perspective and it confirms what you're feeling in your spirit. Like, you know, something's off. You know that you want more and you want better, and you know you deserve it too. You feel like you deserve it, even though you question yourself. Like, maybe this is as good as it's going to get. Maybe I just need to accept this and maybe she'll change. No, she won't. She doesn't want to change because she doesn't think she has to change. You're the one who has to change. And also, the woman that I just described is pretty narcissistic personality style. So protect yourself, guard your heart, guard your mind, learn to set up boundaries. Boundaries are clarity plus follow through. So you're being clear about behavior you will not tolerate, and then you follow through with the boundary. A lot of people find it easier to be clear, hey, I don't want to be spoken to this way. If you speak to me this way, I'm going to leave. But then they don't leave. They still stick around and tolerate it and keep thinking the person's going to figure it out and stop with the madness, but they won't. And so a boundary is not telling someone what to do. You can't control other people. That's you trying to control that person. So a boundary is telling the other person what you're going to do if they behave a certain way, because you can control yourself. So a boundary for me was when my ex would talk to me a certain way, I would say, I'm not going to tolerate this. I'm not going to listen to this. So I'm going to go for a drive. And maybe we can reconvene later on when you've calmed down. So that's setting boundaries. Okay, let's talk about an emotionally mature woman. This woman has probably been through a lot and she's come to the end of herself. She hit rock bottom and she was so tired of living the way that she was living. For me personally, I was a very emotionally immature woman at times in my past. And I didn't understand why certain things kept happening to me or why I was the way I was until I made lots of bad decisions. And then I learned the hard way. I love the phrase that says, change only comes when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. I decided I was ready for change, but I also didn't know that I didn't have to be angry. As an Enneagram 8, when we're triggered, we become angry, not anxious or guilty or shamed. I realized I didn't have to be angry. I realized I was a leader that needed to refine my process and presentation. I deserved better, even though the church had put me up on stage and shamed me. I deserved better. I wasn't cheap. I wasn't bad. And I had to rewire my mindset. And I learned that not all men were narcissists, evil, or alcoholics. There was a lot of growth and learning that I went through a series of unfortunate events. Quick story, somebody asked me to join a multi-level marketing business. I did, and I realized it wasn't for me, but the personal growth aspect was. I've shared a little about this in the past. I loved personal growth, and I wasn't raised around personal growth. I didn't know about the subconscious mind and limiting beliefs. I never listened to podcasts, and this was over a decade ago. I didn't listen to educational YouTube videos, and I didn't spend time journaling. Or I have journaled my whole life, but it wasn't the same type of journaling. I wasn't into affirmations or speaking life over me, which are mantras basically. I didn't know about rewiring the subconscious mind. I didn't know how important a morning routine was and how it changed my life. I didn't understand my Enneagram or my attachment style. Here I am pouring into myself every single day, working out, eating better, and making better decisions. And I started getting better and better. I learned about how important it was to forgive my parents, my siblings, my exes, how vital it is to forgive people and to remove all bitterness and pride and resentment from your life. I started to level up, and going back to the beginning, I was definitely a bench warmer, and I married a bench warmer. That's the behavior that I tolerated. Over the years, I hired my own life coach. She changed my life. I have therapists, mentors, and I started focusing on the relationship I have with myself. I used to think, especially as a homeschooling mother of three, that if I put myself first, I'm selfish. So everybody comes first except for me. And then I just showed up one day hollow and exhausted. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know my identity. I didn't know what my purpose was. And I was lost. I had it backwards. So I don't want you doing that. And I know it might sound selfish, but you can't love others well if you don't love yourself. You need to respect yourself. You need to set boundaries. You need to not settle. When you feel that check in your spirit that says, this is not right, something is off here, a specific relationship or maybe a business deal, that is a red flag. That is a warning trying to protect you. So it's time to exit. I knew nothing about this until I decided to level up and start investing in myself. And when I started investing in myself, I started healing the relationship with my adult son, my siblings, my parents, and my ex, whom I forgive. I'm thankful because if I didn't go through everything I went with him, then I wouldn't be where I am today. An emotionally mature woman is very different. She values peace over power. And let me just say this, I was a control freak. It's also my personality. I like to be in control. I have really good ideas. I like to have a lot of fun, and I'm very efficient. I wanted people to do what I wanted them to do because I wanted to save time and have the most fun. And it took me a lot of mistakes to realize how I was affecting other people when I was trying to control them. And I've also learned that when you try and change someone or control them, that is disrespectful. I didn't think about it that way before. I thought, wow, like I'm disrespecting this person by trying to change them. Maybe my motives are good, but I'm still trying to change this person, and that is not respectful. I started to realize, especially over just this last year, when I learned what it means to have real peace in my life for the first time, a peace that surpasses all understanding. I realized that I would rather have peace over power. And the way that you do that is you let people, like Mel Robbins says, you just let them be, let them drink, let them party, let them do drugs, let them do whatever they want to do. Let them date that person. And a peace comes into your life because you realize you're powerless. It doesn't mean you have to stay in that person's life. If they're hindering your growth and hurting you, then you need to do the courageous thing and walk away and set those boundaries up. She speaks intentionally, not impulsively. Words are so powerful. The Bible talks about a tongue being like a rudder and like fire. And she will choose her words intentionally and she will not want to hurt you. Hurt people hurt, right? So when my kids would hurt me, my ex would hurt me, I'd want to hurt them back. And I can be very intense and very harsh with my words, at least in the past. But I've now learned that I don't want to hurt people anymore. When I'm hurt, I take that hurt to the Lord and I invite Him into the moment. I want to regulate my emotions. I want to think about a response. And you know what? An emotionally mature woman knows the art of silence. She knows when to be quiet. The most important trait a man can have when dealing with a woman is self-control. And the most important trait a woman can have in dealing with a man is silence. It's very difficult for women to be silent. Doesn't react to every feeling. She realizes, okay, this is a feeling. It feels real, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's real. Maybe I'm just going through something, but if I process it, journal it, sit with it for a moment, just be by myself, I don't always need people to help me. The only person I really need is God. I just need to sit with Him. I need to hear from Him. I need to give it all to Him. An emotionally mature woman, she doesn't say everything she thinks. She understands that not every thought deserves a voice. Something that I started learning over the past year was just to stop. Especially I have a 17-year-old daughter. It's a challenge because I've never had a 17-year-old daughter before. Sometimes her responses can seem very over the top. And I am an 8. So that means I want to pave the way for other people. We want to challenge other people to become the best version of themselves. We want to help people level up. I've always been that way. I've just had to work on my presentation. I was a little too bossy, apparently. So I am tempted to teach her a lesson nicely, like be her coach, be her mentor, and say, darling, I have realized that not every thought deserves a voice. I don't have to respond to everything that she does. If she has an incorrect mindset towards something, I don't always have to correct it. Even if I know it's 100% wrong and I know the truth, sometimes it's okay to let them learn. And so sometimes silence is wisdom, not always. Sometimes it's discernment and it's also self-respect because a wise person is not going to argue with an idiot. Only idiots argue with idiots. So don't forget that. She watches behavior instead of debating words. Actions speak louder than words, right? So she's going to watch people's behavior instead of arguing. And for me, actions too are a very big thing. So if somebody says they're going to do something and they don't do it, they will break down trust with me. And then over time, if they continue to break down that trust, you have to ask yourself, is this worth it? Does this person realize what they're doing? And if so, are they willing to level up? If not, I'm not going to tell them to change. I'm not going to try and teach them a lesson. I'm not going to try and fix them. Then I'm dating their potential. She lets patterns reveal themselves. She doesn't over-explain or over-text or over-justify herself. And she can still be disappointed without punishing you. She takes accountability when she's wrong. She owns her part. She doesn't have to own everything, but she regulates her emotions instead of outsourcing them to you. She learns how to say, I'm triggered right now. I'm not sure why, or maybe I know why I'm triggered because this thing happened and I need to go sit with it for a minute. I need to figure this out so this doesn't keep popping up. She considers how her actions affect other people and she genuinely cares about other people. Feeling comfortable, she's not a people pleaser. She's not overcompensating, but she's curious. She can understand, she can read other people's needs and she can read a room. She knows what her purpose is. She's living out her purpose. She knows what she's gifted in, how she can add value to this world. And She finds joy and fulfillment in what she's doing. She doesn't wake up acting like a victim, acting like she has no control and it's not her fault. Being around her feels steady and calm and clear and grounded. She adds value to your life. She believes in you. She supports your dreams and wants to do whatever it takes to help you succeed. She builds you up with her words, tells you how proud she is of you and that she's so excited about what you're doing. And she tells you you have great ideas and she's super grateful when you plan even the littlest activity or outing. So here's the simplest test most people ignore. Does your nervous system feel calm around her, or do you stay on edge? I have felt both those. In most of my relationships, most of the time towards the end of the relationships, I realized there's something off here. This does not feel right. And that answer will tell you everything. Intensity isn't intimacy, and chaos isn't chemistry. People who feel the chemistry think that's a green flag, but it's really not. High chemistry relationships, like high highs, usually result in low lows. So that needs to be a red flag for you. It's good to have chemistry, but just know I've had relationships where there was intense chemistry and it resulted in a terrible breakup. And then there's also been intense chemistry and not a terrible breakup. Just make sure that you're sensitive to that feeling in your gut or your spirit, whatever you want to call it. Just because it's intense, it doesn't mean that there's intimacy. Because you can have these moments where people are going through stuff and you have to be there for that person. There's drama and you feel like it's drawing you together. But are things getting resolved? Are things getting better? Is that person healing? Or does it just keep coming back to the same shit over and over again? That's not intimacy. And that's not love. Let's talk about this. There's a verse in 2 Corinthians. It talks about what love is. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not self-serving. Love does not take into account a record of wrongs. Love does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things. Love is not easily angered. And it goes on and on. So think about it, the relationship with you're in. Do you have love that's patient and kind and doesn't keep a record of wrongs? It's not easily angered, rejoices when you can rejoice, bears all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Is that the love that you have? Because a lot of my clients will tell me, I love that person, she loved me. And then I ask them to break it down. What is her love like? It sounds like nothing like the love in the Bible at all, or the love that I was finally able to experience at one point in my life. And so you ask yourself, is she patient? Is she kind? Is she easily angered? Does she keep bringing up your past mistakes? That's not love. That's probably a trauma bond. That's probably you're addicted to intensity and chaos. A woman who knows when to speak and when to stay silent isn't playing games with you. And she isn't shutting down. An emotionally mature woman does not play games. She doesn't have the time to. She doesn't have the desire to. Those are for children. She's discerning of people's character. She's grounded and chooses intention over impulse. Now, that's not weakness, that's emotional maturity. So I have had a lot of work to do on myself, and I haven't gone through that whole list. I'd like to go through and honestly evaluate myself. How am I doing in my emotional maturity? I'm very curious. I know that I've come a long ways. I know that my relationships have taught me immensely in ways I need to change and level up. And I am thankful. I don't know if your mindset is every hard time, every trouble, every stressful moment comes your way. Is that an irritant? Are you trying to avoid it? Is that just a time sucker? Because we need to change our mindset towards all these experiences, men, that you've been having with these women are not a wasted time. I want you to look at it as a valuable life lesson. What have you learned? How have you gotten better? Instead of asking why it ended a certain way, ask yourself, who are you becoming in the process? If you are in an unhealthy relationship, there's probably no boundaries being set. You settled. You probably started dating her potential, and you're probably confusing intensity with intimacy. And so you've got to ask yourself, am I learning from this relationship, or am I just realizing there's something off about it? I'm going to break up and then I'm going to jump into the next relationship. No, you are not allowed to do that. I'm telling you right now, as your free coach, that if you're in a toxic relationship and the woman you're with checks off most of the items in the emotionally immature checklist, then you need to do some deep thinking. You're not supposed to be in that relationship. You're not supposed to save her or change her or rescue her. You need to rescue yourself. The nice guy is nice because he's probably insecure and trying to earn approval and be liked, and that's not going to work out well for you. The best thing for you to do is to cut it off with that woman and tell her, this isn't working. You're not aligned. You need to get better. You need to work on yourself. So you're going to say goodbye and go no contact. A lot of people have a hard time with this. If you do this, I'm very proud of you. And then you don't date. You turn off the burner and you put the pan away, because you need to work on yourself. You need to understand why you're attracting these women, tolerating this behavior, and why you're settling and not setting boundaries. What is in you that is causing all this chaos? It's your mindset, your limiting beliefs, your attachment style. If you don't know your attachment style, I'll include the link below in the show notes for you to take the quick quiz and figure out why you keep showing up in relationships the way that you do. Spend some time in a season of solitude, being alone, working on yourself, maybe starting a new hobby, start journaling or writing affirmations or dealing with your demons. Maybe you need to forgive someone. Maybe you're bitter and resentful. Maybe you feel entitled that the world owes you something. Maybe you want to be in a relationship for the wrong reasons. Maybe you want sex. Maybe you want intimacy. Maybe you don't want to be alone. Those are never good reasons to be in a relationship. It is better to be alone than be torturing someone else and suffering with them. You're both going to suffer. You need to learn how to meet your own needs and not look to other people to meet your needs. And if you're a codependent person, that's just going to wreak havoc in your relationships. Healthy relationships are interdependent, where they're fine both on their own and in a relationship. They don't need each other to breathe. And you're comfortable being alone. That's a securely attached person. Men, you struggle with this more than women. If you don't have emotional depth or intelligence, you are going to have a really hard time with women, especially sexually, because women need to connect emotionally in order to connect sexually. I'm just speaking from experience. I guess that's going to wrap it up for now. I hope this was helpful. I coach high achieving men. I will coach women as well, but most of my clients are men who are killing it in business, but suffering in their relationships, specifically their romantic relationships. I take men through an 8-week program where we start working on the relationship with yourself. Face your demons, set goals, and figure out where you want to be and what you need to fix and do. And I take your hand and walk you through the process, and I help you heal and attract women that you're aligned with. So if that sounds good to you, you can book a call with me in the link in the show notes. Aside from that, I will see you next week. I will have some interviews set up. I do solo and interview episodes. And I would love for you to get some wind in your hair, driving with the windows down or going fast in the golf cart. But I also mean pushing yourself outside your comfort zone and doing something that you normally wouldn't do, like going to play pickleball by yourself or eating alone or going to listen to music by yourself or going to an aquarium by yourself. Learn to be alone. It's an attractive trait, trust me. Know that you're enough and that you're seen and that you are valuable and you don't need anyone at all but God. That's it. So I hope you have an amazing week. Get some wind in your hair, and I will see you next week.